everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Futures Market Outlook, where we take a look at the big six markets that we trade so we can formulate an attack plan for tomorrow. Now, today, obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on. We're coming off the backs of the terror attacks in Manchester. Our hearts go out to those involved. Stay safe out there. But, you know, looking at these markets, they were really slow today. The U.S. session was brutal, I think is the best way to put it. As we started going into the afternoon session, things started picking up a little bit, but for the most part, it was a very slow day today. And, you know, with that in mind, we need to assume that maybe tomorrow we might have some pretty good movement. Now, of course, before we jump on into that, let's make sure and go through our normal routine here. So hop on over to slingshotfutures.com, and you can scroll down to the right here. There we go. Scroll down to the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter, and you can register your email right onto this so you'll know every single time one of these comes out. We'll talk about all kinds of different stuff. Not only will you know when the video is coming out sent to your inbox, which saves you a little bit of time, but we also talk about all kinds of different stuff like stocks and cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin's a hot one right now, obviously, with it rallying up towards that $2,300 level now. So we talk about all kinds of good stuff in the newsletter, so make sure to sign up for that. If you haven't checked it out already, at the bottom of the page in the blog section, we have two different posts that we make every day. The Live Trader Morning Prep levels, where we post all of the major levels of support and resistance that we anticipate seeing that day. And of course, we also talk about the market psychology or a trade example video that we go over kind of what we saw that day and how we can learn from that information. Now, if you haven't done so already, click on the Live Trader subscription and trial info, and from there you can sign up for a one-day trial, see what we're all about, sit down with us in the trade room, and see how we trade every day and how we do things. Now, of course, if you enjoy it, you can always sign up for a weekly or monthly subscription, and if you really enjoy it, you can always sign up as a full-time VIP member, and with VIP membership, the live trade room comes with the package. So, taking a look at the bund overall had a pretty big gap up and just took a nosedive straight down. Now, this drive lower has created somewhat of a wedge, and you could draw this a couple different ways. Off of the lows, we really don't have any confirmed low yet. The most recent one would be this. So it's not exactly the best looking wedge low here. But if we use the more recent lows, we can easily see coming across the top here, we have a nice little wedge forming on the way lower, and we're anticipating I would love to see a bullish breakout and then sell it right back down again. Overall, the trend is definitely down for today, and the sellers are going to be looking to try to drive it lower. But the one issue is we're running into major support at 160.68. Until we break through this level, we're going to have some trouble, right? Now, once we start breaking through this 160.68, we also have 160.64, which is monthly support, and we are getting nearer to the end of the month, and that means that it gets more and more difficult to trade around that level as well. So we've got a lot of support below us that the sellers are going to have to work through, and that may just mean that tomorrow the bund goes into a range and has a hard time doing much of anything. Now, if we can get a pop higher, I would love to see some selling resistance around that 160.97 to 99, and again, this 160.68, 64 area is standing in the way of the sellers. If we can start breaking through that, we may be able to find a breakout pullback scenario to drive the market lower from there. Overall, though, you know, zooming out, we do have somewhat of a, we've taken back a lot of that range bound that we've had over the past several days. From really the 8th and a little bit before that, we've been stuck in the same range. They tried to break out, and they are now failing back down, and this is exactly what you anticipate seeing. You expect to see them break down further and get down towards the lows of that range, and in this case, that's going to be around that 160.17 area. So there is still plenty of downside room for the bund. We just need to see them actually show up to the party and hit the market lower. Switching gears over to the euro. The euro is getting some pretty good momentum to the downside here as well. We have a lot of support and resistance above us, and we still have major sell side objectives down at 11,814. So overall, the sellers are still looking for a major target below us, which means that we do still have some room. Now, we are very low in the move. This could just be a big spike down into a little flag. It kind of does look that way, and that may just finalize the move in the overnight session. However, if we do get a little bit of a pullback, which is is what I would really want to see here. I want to see them rally back up in towards some areas of resistance. 12,207 is the first area, and then we have a cluster of support and resistance at 276 and 288. They go a little bit above that at 367 and then 491. So lots of areas of resistance above us that we can look to sell off of, and that's what we're going to be looking to do. We want to sell along with this move, continue this drive lower, but preferably at a better price if at all possible, to finish off that major objective down to 11,814. Again, the aggression to the downside, they may just break this flag and finish off the job, but if they do give us a shot at it, I would love to see some better prices to sell. On gold, well, you can see why I said it was so ugly in the US session, and then once we finally started hitting the afternoon, it really cranked to the downside with some big moves. Now, that movement to the downside did create a little bit of a wedge here, and you could draw this up a couple different ways. We could also use the high here. It doesn't really matter. Either way, we have a lot of downside potential here, and we're looking to become sellers on any type of retracement we can get our hands on. Now, those retracement levels are pretty far away because we are very low in the move. We're pretty much pinned right at the bottom, and selling low hoping it goes lower, not exactly my motto. So I'm not looking to sell down here. I want a better price. I know I sound like a broken record, but I would love to see at least the prices to return back to around 1254, kind of somewhere inside there. There's obviously a level of support or resistance inside with that bounce and that bounce, and they even bounced a little bit right there. So I mean, at the very least, you'd want to see a pop up to around 1254, but if at all possible, again, we're always looking for the best prices we can get our hands on, and I wouldn't mind selling at 56.7. You have 58.7 and 60.5 all the way up. All areas of interest to the downside, looking to continue this drive lower on gold and see what the sellers can do. Over on the bonds, we finally woke up a little bit. We did break out of that earlier range. It bounced off to the tick exactly where we were talking about in the nightly outlook letter. It worked out beautifully to the downside, and now we're bouncing pretty much right around where we were expecting on the other end, right? We were looking for some bouncing around here. Did bounce there and ended up breaking through it and finished off a huge objective target to the downside at 153.06. Now that we have some big downside objectives taken care of, it's not that the sellers are done, but they're no longer going to be aggressive, right? Now, what do we mean by aggressive? Well, aggressive sellers are going to be selling while it's falling. Sell while it's pulling back. Sell a bull candle. Sell a bear candle. Sell everything, right? That's aggressive selling. That's kind of done, right? We're nearing the end of that aggressive selling, mainly because we've hit the major objectives. So with the major objectives out of the way, we're looking to sell retracements. The first retracement would be at around 153.14 up to 153.16, and you do also have monthly resistance and 60-minute resistance floating around 18 to 19 as more potential areas of selling. If we get a much bigger correction than that, a trap above 153.23 up to 153.25, we also have up to 29, and then we start digging into the 154s at 154.04. So lots of places of interest above us to look to start selling into, and each one of them could easily procure their own little scalping bounce in terms of opportunity. So pay attention to these. We could have some nice opportunities for the bonds tomorrow to catch some nice sell side action. On crude oil, we have good bullish momentum continuing off of that near test. They missed it by a tick, but we have monthly support at 50.56. They came one tick away from it and rounded off and started pushing back up. Now, if we zoom out, we can see the bigger trend. We're basically just going right back along with that bigger trend that we've been waiting for the past several days. We had that big range. They tried to break up. They tried to break down. They went sideways for a little while longer, broke down again, failed, and now we are off to the races towards the upside. Obviously, the big concern would be that they fail at the highs again, just like they have before, but it is going with the trend, so we have to give them the bias. Overall, looking to buy pullbacks here, we are starting to see a little bit of weakness with the highs kind of rounding off, and very frequently when you see highs rounding off like that, you tend to get a deeper correction. So we do have a more aggressive corrective area, looking for buying pressure at around 51 to 36 down to 29, but it wouldn't be a surprise to see a dip a little bit lower to 51.11 to 06, and maybe even further down to 50.94 and 50.78. Either way, we are looking very happily to buy some pullbacks. I don't want to buy this high in the move. We are literally at the highs right now, so certainly not interested right this second, but if we can get some pullbacks in the afternoon session, we could have some pretty good buying opportunities for the overnight. And then finally on the S&P, still fairly range bound, but grinding higher. We have that nice rip to the upside that happened at around 3 o'clock, and then we went a little sideways, took a quick dip lower. Buyers saw that as cheap and rocketed the move to the upside. But since then, we've been having a lot of trouble just pinging back and forth inside here. We have a major 60-minute resistance at 98.50, and until that level is broken, same situation that we were talking about earlier with another one of these, until that's broken, we're going to have a really hard time going up. They need to break through 98.50 in order to continue this rally to the upside. Now, in terms of buying and selling, we are in a range, so buy low, sell high. We always want to have a bias on this, and we are still kind of rounding home on that head and shoulders pattern to the upside and driving up. Again, that major head and shoulders target above could be looking for a little more on the upside swing, right? We have the major measured move objective right there and on up. So if we do continue for a secondary leg to the upside on the head and shoulders, we could be looking as high back up into the 2420s in that that area. It could be a big upside objective, and there's still plenty of room for the market to keep going up. So again, before the buyers can really take over, they need to break through this resistance at 98.5. But if we can get a nice pullback into buy low, we have monthly support. We have major range support at 93 down to 92. 95 and a quarter is the range low support there, and monthly support at 94 and 3/4. Lots of areas of opportunity below us to start buying into it for a finalized rally up. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Lots of stuff going on tomorrow in terms of the news calendar. Out of the Euro at 8:45, we have ECB President Draghi speaking. Of course, they choose 8:45 in the morning, smack in the middle of prime time for us U.S. traders here. So tomorrow morning at 8:45 with Draghi on the microphone, we have to be careful. There's going to be a lot of movement, usually on the backs of him speaking, so got to play it a little bit safe tomorrow morning. At 10 o'clock out of the U.S., we have the existing home sales forecasted at 5.65 million. Previous was 5.71 million. Out of Canada, at 10 o'clock, we have the Bank of Canada interest rate decision. They're forecasting 0.5. The previous was also 0.5, so they're forecasting it to be unchanged. We also have the crude oil inventories tomorrow forecasted at negative 2.419 million. The previous was negative 1.753 million. We have the API numbers coming out in about 10 minutes here, so make sure to keep an eye on those because those generally tend to be a little bit more accurate. And then, of course, don't forget tomorrow, the big boy outside of all of the other things going on. At 1400, we have the FOMC meeting minutes, and that is not something you want to mess around with. So afternoon trading tomorrow, pretty much a no-fly zone for me. With the FOMC meeting minutes, things can be a little bit crazy, so you got to play it safe tomorrow as a whole. Draghi speaking in the morning, you've got interest rate decisions out of Canada, you've got the FOMC meeting minutes, not to mention all the other stuff going on in this world of ours. Just play it safe, and like we always say, make the plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.